Is a work session of the Portland City Council. Today's date is October 12th, 2023. Colleagues, this is the second work session on facilities planning related to the Charter Transition Project. Maddie Sauer is back with us today on some updates on some of the outstanding questions from last week's work session and to participate in a discussion of options and needs for managing the physical space requirements for the new form of government. You received the agenda and the slide deck ahead of this meeting. These are intended only to be guides. Maddie is not going to walk us through a formal presentation today. Instead, we have a number of topics to discuss to see where we have alignment and consensus and where further discussion or exploration might be necessary. The slides are intended to be informational and visual references for our discussion as it unfolds. I also just want to publicly acknowledge I've received your memo from earlier this week offering another approach to the issues we discussed, under discussion. My team has been reviewing that, and I'm sure we'll have opportunities to discuss it as we focus on the individual components of the overall plan. And I've actually had the opportunity, at least in a couple of cases, to speak with some of you about that in a little more detail. I may take the agenda slightly out of order to focus on topics that I understand to be the most pressing in terms of the timing of decisions and also potentially where we might have the most agreement. I'd like to get through as much as we can today, but we only obviously have an hour today, so further work sessions will undoubtedly be necessary. With that, I'm going to ask Maddie to update us on a couple of follow-ups from our last work session. I'd like to then talk first about the council chambers and the renovation thereof. I think we are at a consensus or close to a consensus on that. I'd like to give at least a head nod to the team to continue to press forward on that front. Following that, the question of the district offices, Commissioner Ryan raised that in our last session and has provided some additional detail. We'd like to talk about restacking the Portland building if we have time. That obviously is an issue that is at a decision point. We directed bureaus to consolidate office space. Bureaus have responded to that. Now they're waiting for us to give the head nod to move forward with that project or not move forward with that project. If we have time, I want to talk about the potential of my office moving early next year. And finally, how we address the council offices going forward. As I had a chance in my meetings with at least two of you this morning, that might need its own work session on the 20th, but if we get to it today, great, we get to it today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Maddie.
Hey y'all, hope you're doing well. It's nice to see you again. For the record, Maddie Sauter from the Division of Asset Management, so I run fleet and facilities. So as the mayor noted, we have prioritized an agenda that we think will help this group get to, we hope, some consensus on issues in a priority order. So we first wanted to reach out to you to talk about chambers, because I think that there's some agreement on that, and make sure that everybody's understanding what they're agreeing to. The second is in-district offices. So this is a topic that we had tabled because we didn't feel like we had enough information to be able to do quality work in this space. I want to thank Commissioner Ryan for providing us really good information that we didn't have, connecting us with the district offices. So we've already started site tours in those locations, and it does look like it might be really viable. So I want to thank you, and then also follow up on what that looks like. And then if we have time today, I'm hoping that we can get approval on proceeding with the restack that we were already planning independent of this project in the Portland building, because I think it's good governance. I think it saves the city's money, and it saves some bureaus money in particular. And I just also want to acknowledge how difficult last week was and say that that's actually not unusual for facility projects. So facility projects are really expensive. They're usually a lot more expensive than anybody is anticipating. And if you've ever remodeled a home, you know that. They're really complex, and they get more complex as you get into the details of implementation. At the city, they're also overhead, so they're the last thing that anybody wants to do. And they're also disruptive, emotionally, pragmatically. They're just never a fun thing to take on. So I am sorry if last week was difficult. It's certainly not what we had intended. I know you guys have had a lot on your plate, so it's probably been difficult to track these things as they've progressed and we've worked our way through our puzzle. So thanks for convening again, and I hope that we can come to consensus on things that we're working on. Thanks as well to your staff for reaching out to us in the last week and really trying to broker good conversations about what everybody's needs are and what our needs are. So we do appreciate that. So we are going to open this up for discussion, not in the order that the slides are. And so I believe I have shared my deck, but I'm not 100% certain. So we're going to jump around in the slide deck a little bit. Actually, I'll go back to this slide. So this is just up here as a reference point for.
Can you go back to the update one?
What?
Go back 2 slides.
Can we?
Go, okay. No.
Oh, can we do that one second?
Sure. I think we talked about the update last week.
Oh, we're going to go into it in detail. Yeah. All right. So, sorry, I'm trying to navigate multiple things. So the first, I just wanted to remind folks what we had been bringing forward as what we called the base case, meaning that this was, for us at least, understanding the parameters, the straightest shot from kind of here to there. And this base case is really focused on 3 items: council chambers, council offices, and mayor and city administrator offices. That last piece you haven't really seen yet. I think we're going to talk about it next week because it really wasn't part of the CMGC that we pulled forward in April. And council offices we're going to also talk about next week because I do think that there's a lot of complexity and richness there, and we need to have that discussion. But the item today that's the highest priority for us is council chambers. So I'm going to flip to the next slide and really lay out for us what this looks like. I believe we're in alignment on this, but in case not, I want to make sure that we have that discussion. Then again, we'll go back to in-district offices, and then we'll probably finish today with the restack. So I think you have this slide deck available to you. It's up on the screen as well. We see 2 primary pathways for council chambers, although the one that we really see as being the only pathway is to do the work in 2024. And the pros of that are that the project is done by January 1st of 2025. It's the most affordable time to do that work. And, you know, of course, the disruption is that council meetings have to go to a temporary location up at 1900. My understanding is from reading the memo that was sent out on, I think, Monday or Tuesday, is that council understands this and is in alignment on this. I do want to make sure, though, that we advise you of there's one small piece that didn't come up in the discussions last week. It's a detail, but I think it's a detail that's relevant, and I just want to make sure it's all on the table before you say yes to this. And that is there's a period of time this year during the holidays, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, that we actually have to decommission the audio-visual assets here and take a bunch of them up to 1900 so that we have that facility set up by January 1st. So what that means, and this is part of the proposal that never came forward because there were too many conversations going on, is that council work sessions will be virtual for essentially Thanksgiving to January 1st. We picked that period of time when we were originally blocking out the schedule because those are the meetings that tend to get canceled the most often. I think we have about a 50% cancellation rate with the holidays. And so it seemed least impactful in terms of the time period when council would be virtual. And so that would be the run-up to this. We would initiate that in Thanksgiving. The chambers will be up and running by January, and then this site is under construction, and council meetings are being held up at the 1900 building in person. So I just wanted to make sure that that fact came forward because it is a detail, it's impactful for you, and I didn't want to feel like a bait and switch here in terms of what the agreement was.
I had one question
Yeah.
on this, not necessarily about that component. On the right side, January 2025, so you apply an inflation factor. What about cost of capital? So we're under that scenario, we would be delaying investment roughly a year. I mean, oversimplification. Because I'm just trying to calibrate, if we're applying an inflation factor, there should also be a cost of capital discount for cash flows incurred a year from now as opposed to today.
Yeah, so the way the project is being financed is through facilities reserves. So we are actually self-financing this project as an organization. We didn't take out debt to do the work. And so the money is being paid back over a 7-year period by the bureaus through a cost allocation. So we are taking our savings account, applying it in cash to the project, and then I'm not exactly sure, I don't think Tim Grew is here, but the interest rate, there's an interest rate applied to the bureaus in terms of being repaid. That's essentially our lost opportunity cost of having that money in the market. And the fees are allocated out. I think the amortization period is about 7 years because the project is so technology intensive. So it's a shorter amortization period than you would normally have if you were just doing, construction.
That makes sense. Just in comparing these two options, though, it's just a call out. Again, if we're applying an inflation factor for, spend a year from now,
Yeah.
there should also be a discount on based on cost of capital. And I know as a city, it's lower than what it would be potentially sometimes in the private sector. Maybe Tim can tell us offhand what our cost of capital is, but that just so that we're crystal clear in comparing cash flows.
We can get back to you on that because none of those, oh, is Tim here? Tim? Sorry.
Hiding in the back. It didn't work.
We are financing this through the facilities construction reserve. And unfortunately, I didn't bring those numbers with me today. So if you will allow me, I will get those to you as soon as I can once I get back to the office. Apologize for that.
What's the city's cost of capital assumption for capital projects?
In terms of the interest charges against us,
Yeah.
we agreed that we would give them the same amount that they would have earned in the treasury operations of the city. So whatever those numbers are is what we will pay on that debt.
And let me ask that slightly differently. For capital projects, when we're projecting cash flows out in the future, is there a standard cost of capital that the city applies in assessing capital projects?
I don't have an answer to that question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'm surprised by that, but.
Well, no, are you, maybe I'm not understanding. Are you talking about comparison of what this particular deal is to what we might be able to do in the market outside?
No, just, in private sector, we're assessing a capital project. You have cash flows over multiple years. You discount future cash flows to present value, typically applying either a risk factor or a cost of capital. It's just to compare, and so that's what I'm typically.
I'd have to run some calculations on this particular project to get that to you.
Okay.
And we can do that.
Okay. And again, it's just when we talk about inflation and cost of capital, they kind of, just that we're comparing apples to apples. Then secondly, on this, in this area, so we're talking about the 1900 building as a temporary for this council. Do we have a full summary of the assessment of the 1900 building as a temporary council chamber for the next council?
I guess I'm not understand.
Well, I think it's essentially start January 2025 on this space, right? Like, so that's embedded in this.
Yeah.
Can the 1900, have we done a full assessment? Can the 1900 building be served as temporary? And if there's a report or something on that, I just would like to understand what the analysis is on that.
Yeah, understood. I don't think we have a report. We could probably get you a written summary, but just knowing the building, the dais is small. It's designed for fewer than 12. And so we feel like it would be pretty close quarters to have those folks all decamped there in 2025, along with their staff, along with the clerk, et cetera, all the people who need to be typically in a meeting. So that's what I know from a space layout standpoint. I guess I would ask James, is there anything technological that would prevent 1900 building from serving 12 members of council in 2025
As far as space or just?
the technological setup?
Yeah, technology would have to be improved, upgraded.
Do you want to come up? And maybe also just introduce yourself so people know who you are.
James Apple with BTS Video. I think I know you all. So yes, 1900 building would be massive technological upgrades as far as the audio. Right now, it's the audio sounds like it's underwater. So there's audio components that would have to be connected to a new AV control room for open signal. We'd also have to either stand up a brand new broadcasting room or take components from City Hall to help with budget. And basically, I lost my train of thought here.
Is there anything about that site that wouldn't work for 12 people that do work for 5? I think that's the question.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand how much of a plan has been built out. It's not so much what how fully that's been assessed as a possibility for the new council in 2025.
Well, I mean, it's been assessed for upgrades. That was the plan, to put numbers together to be able to house council up there for that year. So that's where all the numbers came from.
Got it. I think just offline, I'd kind of like to understand that fully.
Is your line of questioning in case there's construction delays here, and so we might have to have the council meet up there when there's 12 people? I'm trying to figure out.
It's just to fully evaluate the option that we, do we make that the temporary council chambers January 1, 2025 for the new council? Like, to really compare the cost of these different options.
You were doing a whole nother option. Okay.
It's just building out off of that. If you started on this January 1, 2025 and use the other space as the temporary for the new council, just trying to visualize what that really means, and to what extent it was assessed.
Kayla McGee. So we did do a review of the existing dais, and we also reviewed what our new proposed layout will be and did test fits. And we reviewed existing chambers throughout the region, so Beaverton, and we did Vancouver, and did measurements on what was recommended spatially. And what is recommended spatially to house the 12 counselors and the support staff would not fit in the existing dais. And so it would be our recommendation to either have to retrofit it to fit or to provide a new dais, which is costly.
So, and then again, thinking of this concept of temporary, that's just trying to evaluate that, but it is a project. But okay, that's helpful. And then last in this area, we do have some pretty sizable sort of chambers that host events, like thinking about like Keller or other, just wondered to what extent that was evaluated as options. Because we've done public events in some of those facilities, different needs, but sometimes they have AV equipment and I don't know about broadcasting, but just curious if there was any assessment of those.
Yeah, well, we took a peek at the Multnomah County chambers. We had discussions with Metro. We did actually go last week and look at the Prosper chambers to understand what's available there. Most of them require some of the same sort of upgrades, I guess I would say, that this chambers would require, which is to say AV broadcasting accommodations. So we run all of our communications through open signal, so usually there's some sort of retrofitting to make sure that it works with the city's protocols. the security aspect is something that we take seriously as well, so those protocols have to get installed at those places as well. So I don't know that we have a pure write-up of those. If you're looking for that, we can probably retrospectively do it, but just going very quickly, looking at our own asset, it seemed like it was the most amenable choice for 5 people in 2024.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe just to help move us
Yeah.
along, I'm supportive of what I'm reading here. in Council
Excellent.
Chambers. Yeah.
All right.
And I just want to say the virtual between Thanksgiving and the end of December, I really hope it doesn't stretch any longer than that.
Understood.
Because being sworn in September of 2020, I know how it didn't work very well when we were virtual. So it's really important that we don't have that go on very long.
Understood, and I'm grateful that the council is coming to some alignment.
I was just giving you my opinion, trying to move this along. I know there's
Well,
other
I'm great. I'm glad you're here. I just wanted to be above board about that situation. It didn't come up last week, and so I
Yeah, no,
wanted-
I'm so glad you
Yeah.
brought it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I also support the option on the left. I recognize there's some needs to move forward with this. I'll also just vote, or not vote, but note for the record. I do feel a little bit rushed in terms of evaluating the historic importance of this particular space. I know we need to move forward. Nostalgia does not always serve us well. I hope that we get this right as we move forward. But sometimes you just got to make a call, and if this gets put to a vote, I will support starting the renovations on this chambers for January, or for 2024.
I appreciate your comments about the significance. I'm ready to move forward.
Definitely move forward.
All right, well, let's move forward.
You good?
Thank you, also.
Actually, let me, Commissioner, just so we can,
with that.
Commissioner Gonzalez, how are you feeling about just the question of renovating this chambers in 24?
I'm going to go with the majority on this. I think we need to be as unified as possible on these things, so I'm going with the majority, 100% on this.
I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear it. And I also appreciate the line of inquiry you had about making sure that as we evaluate options, we look at all the variables there, interest rates, cost of interest rates, inflations, whatnot. So I appreciate the conversation so far. And I know we only got an hour, and we're almost halfway through, so I'll shut up.
All right,
So do you have everything you need then on the council chamber question?
do you have everything you need?
Yes, move forward.
Do you
Okay,
have everything you need?
good. So
set.
next, we'll move to the concept of in-district offices. Commissioner Ryan brought this up last week. Commissioner Ryan, did you want to just summarize for the benefit of everybody the concept and your perspective? And then I'll ask Maddie to update us on some of the conversations that have taken place since it was proposed.
Sure, I think part of the heart of the matter of why the new charter was approved was people wanted to see their elected officials closer to them in community. And I thought it was very important to be responsive to that and to lead with providing offices for them to do their work on day one out in their districts. Yeah.
Well, this is something I want to totally defer to you on and thank you for.
Sure.
We had some pretty practical reasons why we didn't look at district offices, and then the rocket took off on council chambers and offices, and as you noted, in August, the boundaries were approved. So this is something that deserved to be picked up again, and I'm glad you brought it to the fore. I will also note OMF facilities, we're not a publicly facing organization. We only serve the other bureaus. And so we really figured there would have to be some sort of gigantic public process around this that we didn't fully have the mastered skills to do. So having you guys bring forward district coalition contacts for us was really important and valuable. Our team is already going out to look at those sites to see if they start meeting, sort of the basic site requirements in terms of office space, community space, whether or not it's on the network. If not, does it have good Wi-Fi? Likewise, kind of the security situation. And all I can say is thank you, because as it turns out, these sites are turning out to be really beautiful and accessible. So some things that we have going on. Commissioner Mapps, did you
Are we, okay, I was trying to figure out if we were on the right slide.
Oh, yeah, so what we're looking to do right now is to, these are sites that still need to have an agreement. Probably the only one that might not would be Kenton Firehouse, and that's because it's a city-owned property that Civic Life occupies, although we still may do a bureau-to-bureau agreement. But in some cases, these are Prosper-owned or third-party owned, so we do still need to have some sort of lease or agreement to occupy these spaces.
Maddie, could I
Yeah.
interrupt, and since it's a work session, there's.
Yeah.
So I'm still, I'd like to hear from Commissioner Ryan, because I have some really basic questions. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Ryan. I thought it was an interesting idea to use the district coalition offices. My understanding is those district coalition offices are willing to let their space be used, at least on a temporary basis, for the new commissioners starting in 2025 to use those as offices in the district, should they choose to use them. But I want to make sure I understand some of the assumptions going into this, because that sort of directs, I think, what the cost of this is going to be. Is it intended, first of all, that these are temporary locations for the new council until they can figure out what they want to do on a more permanent basis in the districts? Was that sort of the broad objective here?
Well, let me back up. First of all, I thought last week's meeting it wasn't difficult for me. It was just a lot of new information. So it was like looking at a rough draft for the first time, and I was doing my best to think on my feet and be present in the meeting. So thank you for listening to the concern I had about really matching the will of the voters of wanting their elected representatives to be closer to them in districts. I know that, TJ McHugh, can you please come up, because you're way more into the details of this than I am. So I know that our office has been working with you all, and I would rather have TJ explain that. But I think your second question, what was I just thought we should sequence with that first, and then I can't stop. I have pictures of how beautiful our current offices are and how they have plenty of room. This could be an exhibit for the meeting, and they're lovely, and they've all been remodeled recently, and we could save taxpayers a lot of money by, I don't think, spending as much money on these offices that have ample room, I think, for 3 elected. So that was the other part of it, was trying to figure out how we could be more efficient with our spending.
Okay, so I'm confused. I thought this was, I'm trying to get to the district office question.
That's what we're
that was put
doing,
on
Mayor,
the
but I
table.
thought it was important to sequence it with the fact that the sequence was offering them downtown offices right away. And I was saying, why don't we consider allowing the newly elected officials to have district offices on day one? And then hopefully adapting to our lovely suites that have all been
Don't show the kitchen,
upgraded
though. The
recently.
kitchen's not the best picture.
Well, okay, we'll take that one off the record. Is that your kitchen?
I don't know.
My point is, TJ's here to explain a little bit more, because he's been in dialogue with the district coalition offices, Mayor.
Thank you. I was just confused because those look like photos of our current offices.
They are,
and I
Mayor.
thought-
They're show how beautiful they are. I know we've only had like one meeting in there, but they're really beautiful offices, and they have plenty of room. Yeah.
Yes, I have nice artwork in mind, but can you tell us about the district
Yeah, so the district
office
coalition
concept?
offices.
What are the assumptions behind this?
The assumptions are right now that it would be temporary with the option of being permanent and long-term if the new council chooses to. So the conversations that we've been having is not to put a lot of investment into those offices in terms of cable and all that stuff, because we don't know what the next council is going to say, but there is an option to be more permanent if they want.
Okay, so, and my understanding from Commissioner Ryan is the district coalition offices are very much okay with this. They're willing to open their doors, let commissioners work in those spaces, either on a temporary basis, or if they choose to, they can negotiate a longer-term lease. Is that a fair
Yeah, absolutely.
assumption?
Yeah, so most of the district coalition offices are not utilized 100%, so there's space in them already. So, and some of the quotes that I've gotten already for one office would be roughly $2,000 a month for all 8 staff members.
And that sounds great. I just want to be very clear. I appreciate this being put on the table as a potential option. And it is assumed that these are district offices for the incoming commissioners in 2025, they would have the option of using these if they choose to use them on a temporary basis till the new council decides what they would like to do on a more permanent basis in the districts. Is that
Absolutely.
a fair
Yeah, and there's conference room
interpretation?
available, offices available, so it'd be fully functional office for them.
I think that sounds really reasonable. A couple of questions. I guess if they decided to stay longer term, obviously we would have to do more significant technology upgrades and security upgrades. Is that correct?
Correct.
Because they couldn't access our city database
They can, through the VPN.
through the PPN. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be no different than when you were working from home during
Just like during COVID, what we all had to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I supplement this just with one piece? I didn't get a chance to bring it up last week, but east of 205, we have our PBEM BOAC offices, and during a substantial portion of the year, there is excess office space there. Now, there's a number of bureaus that would be implicated, but I would just ask that you add that to the list of properties evaluating when we're thinking about district offices. It's got city security, fantastic IT, really nice office space, and it's east of 205. And so I just would ask that you kind of put it on the list to consider in addition to the coalition offices.
And if I can jump in here and maybe complicate things, unfortunately. I know, I think all of these spaces, and I think they would work just fine. However, I also believe, I don't know how much you've talked with central northeast neighbors. So I think if I recall correctly, I think they were in the fire station, got booted out of the fire station, maybe are now in the senior center. Last I heard, and I think this is a conversation that's still fresh, like within the last 10 days or so, they're uncertain about their medium to short-term space, where they're going to be, partly because at least there's a sense out there that we're going to realign the coalitions to kind of sync up with the new districts, for example. So you might just double check when you talk to CNN, make sure, like, see how long their lease is, because I get the impression they're frankly a little bit cautious about re-signing a lease because they don't know if they're going to exist in a couple weeks or months or whatever it's going to be.
Well, yeah, I would agree that if the districts are going to be utilized by the commissioners or by the new council, we're going to have to rethink our contracts through civic life on what that contract looks like.
All right.
And so we might have to jump the gun on writing longer term contracts to make sure that we don't go through an RFP process to rejigger the current nonprofits.
I hope the facilities people track that. I got a little bit of it, but that's.
So Maddie, from my perspective, this seems eminently reasonable. Assuming that we can find places, it gives people a temporary landing pad. It sort of fulfills my desire, which is to let the next council figure out what they want to do on a permanent basis. It seems extremely cost effective.
Yeah, and meets the spirit of the vote.
I think it does. We might, we're not really talking about the commissioner offices at this point, but I would see this very much as a both and.
Yes.
We may still be disagreeing on the commissioner offices, but from my perspective, whatever we decide on the commissioner offices plus this seems like a really reasonable approach, because then it begins that process of creating that culture of being in the community and having a space in the community. So Commissioner, I really appreciate your bringing this idea forward. I think it's
I
innovative.
appreciate it. Well, you gave me the assignment of civic life, so I've had the pleasure of being out in all of these meetings over the last 6 months. And
Yeah, and there might
I
be-
was listening, and I could tell they really were excited about having their local elected officials closer to them. I think that's why many of them voted yes.
Thank you.
Swell.
So
Okay.
what do we need to do on this? Is there?
Yeah, so just a quick update, what our group is doing, and so this is our properties team, so it's not Randy and Caitlin, this is Rick and Pauline over there, so they're the ones who negotiate leases for the city and do other types of real property agreements. So what we are doing is site tours, making sure that the sites meet sort of our basic checklist for what we need, and so far they look great. The next thing that we'll be doing is probably pulling together very small capital packages, and they're mostly related to signage. So we just want to make sure that people know what's going on, they can find their way, et cetera. So far, the sites we looked at look fantastic. If one of them or some of them fall through, then we're probably having a little bit of a different discussion about, well, hey, there's a District X that doesn't have a site. What can we do? What should we do? But for the most part, it looks great. So I think what we're going to do is probably report out to you on a routine basis about how these site assessments are going, what we think each site needs in terms of CapEx or OpEx. And then as we come forward, particularly if there's anything that's not already a city property, we are required to bring an ordinance to you to lease outside of the city. And so you'll have an opportunity, sort of fail-safe, to review that and make sure that we've done good work in alignment with what the expectations were. City-to-city agreements don't actually require an ordinance, but I think just as a matter of good faith, we'll bring them forward anyway so that you can see what's going on. Right now, we're looking at doing leases or bureau-to-bureau agreements from about October of 2024, maybe November, through June of 2026. I think that will give the new council time to settle in, to understand how they work with their neighborhoods, to decide if these sites are worth it or not. And then from there, we can go to understand, if we want to hard code this in as a city asset and what that means in terms of capital, ongoing costs, et cetera. So I guess all I'm looking for is, does that approach sound good to you?
Yeah.
Sounds conceptually, yeah.
Are there any
Another
obvious,
great thing,
are there any
okay.
other obvious pitfalls that we should be aware of that maybe we're
No,
not?
I don't think so. We have a list here. There's 6 items on the list, so that's obviously more than 4. I think we do per Commissioner Mapps's observations, we're a little bit not certain about B, the CNN coalition, like, is it in the right spot? Is it going to be staying where it's at? So that one may not pan out. Multnomah Arts Center, just so you know, that's actually a city-owned property that Parks has. They have an RFI out right now for someone to come in and take the space. So we are looking at whether or not the Northwest offices in Old Town will be sufficient for District 4, or whether or not we should try to be responsive to an RFP for Multnomah Arts Center. So it'll be one or the other of those. Southeast Uplift is a privately owned entity. They are in a remodel right now, and so we actually aren't going to be able to get into those offices in November. They want us to wait until they're finished, so we'll see that site at that point in time, but we did do a drive-by, and it looks pretty awesome. And then Kenton Firehouse is a city-owned property already, so Civic Life is there right now, and again, really nicely situated within the district and also looks beautiful. Nick Fish, just so you know, that's a Prosper-owned property. That's probably the most complicated on this list, so I think service to District 1 is the one that we're most questioning. It's just an empty shell. So it's right next to an existing Civic Life build-out that we did. It's about 1,000 square foot office owned by Prosper, so it would require some tenant improvements and some capital. So again, I think this is the value of coming back and reporting out to you sort of item by item as we resolve these things and have deals on the table.
And Maddie, just to be clear, I would definitely consider PBEM BOAC space. I think it's worth your time to go take a look at it.
Yeah.
Again, it has unique needs because it has to flex up in cases of emergency. So
Yeah.
they have a lot of excess capacity for most of the year. And then there's going to be certain times of year where they do need substantially more space. But it's a big building on one side. And again, the build out's already very nice with good security, very, very good security and IT. So
Great.
Good, so do we have a head nod for staff to continue to pursue this as an option? Great, thanks, Commissioner Ryan. Good work on that.
And thank you, Maddie, for meeting with Kelly and the team. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it to
All
the
right,
fore.
and pressing right along here, let's move on to plans for optimizing space utilization in the Portland building and facilities' desire to complete a restack to let go of privately leased space and save at least 3 boroughs significant annual lease expense. And colleagues, my goal here is to ensure that we all have an understanding of what is desired and the trade-offs that come along with doing this restack now. And in just a review, some time ago, we had directed all of our bureaus, given that not everybody is working full-time in their offices, to look at potential savings on city-owned real estate. The bureaus took that charge very seriously. We have 3 bureaus that are ready to consolidate space, and we're basically standing in their way until they're sure they have a head nod to move forward. So that's why we're asking the question today. Maddie?
Yeah, so I think that's a great summary. This was completely tangential to the charter reform project until we realized that it was possible that offices were going to get delayed to 2025. And we were hearing from staff that they really wanted to have close adjacencies to one another because of the collaborative relationship. There are not very many large blocks of space open right now. I know that sounds crazy, but in terms of official vacancies, there's not that many. And so suddenly, one of these 2 kind of consolidation efforts was potentially at risk if we had to hold open space for council to move to in 2025. Essentially, what we're doing is cutting all of our slack, moving people in from out-leased spaces. And with that, it means if we do a future council offices remodel, there are not very many places to put these folks now. We should have district offices online, so that's a place that they can be, but what is the touchdown space downtown? 1900 is available, slotting people in, or we might have small patches of Portland building that we can wrest away from the bureaus to accommodate these counselors with their smaller staff. But overall, if the goal was to have people build rapport and to be in one consolidated spot, there was really only 1 or 2 spaces available, and we'd already looked to recapture that by bringing the bureaus back in. So the first one is PBOT. They'll be coming into the 12th floor. That's what's planned. We save about $620,000 a year to the blended rate, which is really the rate that all downtown city tenants pay. And the PBOT itself has a smaller footprint, so they would save about $270,000 a year. So that's the one that really we'd already given a go on, and in case it's sweet revenge and feels good, the very first person in this room who has to move is me. I got to put all my stuff in a box and get myself to the 10th floor of the Portland building so that we can create that space for PBOT. So that one we've already effectively given a green light to, not quite realizing how these things were going to collide. The other one that is then, I think, more at threat or more at risk of failing is the fall 2024 move, in which BES would come out of Pioneer Tower and would come into Water Bureau's big chunk of empty space on the 4th floor of the Portland building. So right now, Water Bureau has an overhead cost of that of about $470,000 a year. We would love to get them cost recovery for that. And we would like to see BES save on costs. So right now, it's leased at Pioneer Towers, I think in the $800,000 range. Going into Water Bureau space is sufficient for them, and it's a lot more cost effective. So we really want to make sure that we, I think the recommendation from us is we're going to go forward with this because I think it's a good governance move. We save a lot of money for the city. And I guess for me, the recommendation is if we do some sort of council office remodel after 2024, that we just cross that bridge when we get to it in terms of where we stick people and what we find for them. Especially with district offices, in-district offices maybe being on the table, that gets a little easier to solve. But if people wanted to be right next to council chambers, there were just not that many options, so we were starting to winnow down. We're just realizing we might be closing off an option in the future. So I'd like to see this restack go forward, and I guess I'm hoping that you're in alignment with that.
I'm completely supportive of proceeding with this. I think this is good governance. And I understand how it got coupled with what we're talking about on charter reform implementation, but I'd really rather it be kept separate, that you full speed ahead, you lock and load this, and then we plan around it, assuming it happens. It just seems like, from my vantage point, good governance. So.
And I'll just jump in here. I want to thank Commissioner Gonzalez for his support of this move. It's, as staff has said, this is a good government move. And in many ways, it is just unfortunate that this good government move got mixed up in this other conversation that we're having about reinventing government. But these are kind of separate to some degree, so I hope that we can feel good about moving forward. But I can also see my Commissioner Dan Ryan has some concerns. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, we get to think out loud in these meetings because you see new stuff, and it seems great. My question is, when I go over to the Portland building, for example, I'm always amazed how much space there is because people are working from home. And so what percentage usage do we have an analysis of what the percent usage is right now in the Portland building? I'm in a
Yeah.
bubble here in City Hall because most of our offices are here every day. Oh, who has that?
Someone has the answer.
Well, I think we're at about 50%, is that correct? Oh, less than that.
And I don't go over there just on Fridays where it seems less, but it seems less than 50% just from an eye test. My point is, it seems like we have a lot of opportunities today to look at this. And would we ever consider having like a floating workspaces in the city where the laptop's your office? And like many of our private sector partners, they do that now. So I think we have, this topic goes beyond just this. It's about looking at usage and saving money.
Hi, Rick Dyer,
And I just noticed our footprint's not being utilized, that's all.
real estate planning and portfolio manager working for Maddie. And our analysis of this, it's
Yeah.
not a really robust analysis, it's the only data we have access to, is that our utilization rate in that building averages 34%. That's given the 20-hour requirement. We're still only averaging 34%. And so what Maddie is recommending as a restack is in recognition of that paradigm, that if we can encourage people, and we've successfully encouraged PBOT to make the transition to embracing the hotel model, which means that they have a ratio of roughly 2 staff to each desk. That recognizes that new paradigm. So they're downsizing their footprint as they come out of the building at 6th and Main, going into the Portland building with less footprint, but embracing the hotel model in recognition of that paradigm.
And that could happen no matter what. Like if we weren't even having this conversation about us, council needing to be
What
somewhere.
I'm saying is more people follow that model that PBOT's embracing, we can better restack that Portland building and get more utilization, get that utilization rate up. So more people are coming in because they're recognizing they only need 1 desk for every 2 staff.
Yeah, I know there's some major employers downtown that have already baked this into post-2020 planning for space utilization. You know, if you're at 50% or less on utilization, then you split the office between 2 people. And
That's why you're seeing a disequilibrium in the office market as these mortgages come due, and they're ready, about $450 billion is estimated to be rolling over this year in the CMBS market, that you're seeing the underwriting fall through the cracks because it can't refinance the same debt balance they had because tenants are either vacating, downsizing, or asking for lower rent, or both.
Yep.
Yeah, so we concur.
Right, it just seems like this should be the conversation anyway, even if we weren't figuring out where
It
council
is. I mean,
systems go.
I think there's a delicacy
So
there.
why would we just be directing this no matter what?
Yeah.
Getting outside the scope perhaps of this meeting, I apologize, but since
Oh,
we're on this
you're-
conversation, it seems to merit some discussion.
Yeah, and I think that there was a challenge for bureau directors to figure out how to balance 2 competing things emotionally, which is how to get their staff to come back to the office and how to say simultaneously, by the way, you're going to have to share that with somebody else and you're going to split Wednesdays. So I would say that we are repeatedly offering the bureaus the opportunity to downsize their footprint because we see the same thing you do. We're probably one of the only organizations in the Portland building that's there every day because we have on-site staff. So we are hopping on floor 12, but you go to other floors and it's painful. And so we offer that repeatedly, and mostly what we hear is, well, I don't think my staff are quite ready to get to that model yet. And so I think it's a process, and
Not ready to come into the office, but not
to
ready.
split space, to share space.
Trying to understand the emotions here. Okay.
Yeah, well, nobody likes to move, right? Nobody likes to have their physical workspace affected. It's challenging. So we're not in charge of that. We're not an authoritarian regime.
Looking for efficiencies like you are.
Yeah, but what we do think is at least here, there's a clear financial win, right? Which is here we are leasing all this office space. We should get out of this market, and as these leases expire, move people into the Portland building. And that, to us, is a financial no-brainer. We're increasing utilization, maintaining occupancy. I don't know that there's a lot of financial advantage for other bureaus to start hoteling, but certainly as they have growth or as we experience charter reform, we would like to see more bureaus adopt the hoteling model. I think that we could see a lot of efficiency in our use of space.
Maybe we could just say, colleagues, like this is a great topic for as we move forward with our budget for next year. and where we can look for some cost savings and efficiencies. So we've been in a out of COVID reporting to work dialogue for quite a while now. So, and I think we're in a bubble because all of our offices are here most days. So I forget that we have a lot of empty spaces around the city.
And on that point, Maddie, just a request offline, if we could get a sense of what our rent spend is outside of the Portland building, you can send it to me offline just to sort of quantify. That would be kind of just interesting as to.
Well, I can tell you right, it's this. So, part of our challenge is, this is the last of the out leases to come.
Got it.
So everything else is something that we already own, and it's already sort of baked into our cost structure. So, and we have debt as well from the Portland building and Vanport projects. So 1900 is fully paid off, City Hall is fully paid off, so all of those costs go into a giant bucket, and it's pushed out through something called the blended rate. So when we have more costs like out leases, they just increase that cost structure and increase rent. So cutting those saves the blended rate money, and I think at that point in time, we're about as bare bones as we can be. The other thing we'd like to look at is, as bureaus expand or grow, how do we now bump up utilization? And some of it might be just that bureaus need to start coming in 50% of the time, which I actually also see. We're there all the time, but that's not true for every bureau. So really, this is part of what we do on a regular basis, is occupancy planning, space planning, and really trying to think about how do we lower our costs and maximize utilization, because otherwise we're not being very prudent as an asset owner.
Great. So you have our head nod then to continue to go forward with the restack. Is there anything else you need on that front?
Nothing at all. We will
Okay,
proceed.
great discussion. See, we're reaching important consensus. So I want to just take the last couple of minutes here and give everybody a potential heads up. So when we began this process, we did not spend a lot of time talking about how does the space look for the city administrator and the mayor. I think there's a consensus that they should be in close proximity since they will be working finally, 61 and I just reached puberty. It was bound to happen sooner or later. What next? But at any rate, we haven't really talked about what those spaces would look like. So we are in the process of envisioning what that could look like on the third floor. And it will probably require something more of a heavy renovation of the mayor's existing office and the adjoining offices. We're still trying to figure out how that might look and working with the chief administrative officer and other bureau directors to sort of envision what that might look like. But I want to be very clear that if it helps move the transition process forward, or if it enables us to save funds, if it allows us to stage it at the same time that we're doing the council chamber renovations, the mayor's office is ready to move out as soon as January, if that is helpful.
Mr. Mayor, is that what that slide says when it says January? Which January? I'm looking at that. So were you talking about a year from January or 60 days from now?
60 days from now.
All right.
Yes, and this is a portion of the project we'd originally kicked to 2025 because the city administrator wouldn't be on board. We thought we had more time and there was a lot of complexity already. I think if we're seeing a willingness on the part of the mayor to move out, if we are seeing clarity in what the city administrator design program should be so that we could actually design around it, if we have that information and we have an ability to hit go in 2024 and it's necessary, we would want to pull that project into 2024 to take advantage of having contractors already here. It just makes it cheaper. So this is a little bit of a deviation from what we laid out. Again, it's a logic puzzle that we're working our way through bit by bit as information comes to us. And I think we see the value in moving that up and getting that done as well.
But just to be clear, it was not part of the CMGC contract, so
No.
we would have to bring back, I presume, an amendment to council.
Yep.
So I just want to give people a heads up on that, that we are, I don't want you to hear that we're having this discussion and not know where it came from. Great.
Thank you.
It is now 3 o'clock. we will reconvene. I think the 20th is our next work session, is that correct? Any chance we could get longer than an hour for that? Well, we'll look at it and we'll talk to council offices. We're adjourned.